There are homes that have a dozen kids, they're not in school, and they've been turned into little slaves. I mean, there's like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of kids that are being exploited across our country.
The average person in Missouri or Ohio, they don't realize what's going on in these sweatshops, in these fashion centers, in these places where kids are being used, for labor. And it's literally modern day slavery for children.
But some of these people in Guatemala are so poor, they thought that maybe their children might have a better life in the United States. And they gave them to these coyote traffickers. There's no parent and guardian that knows these kids in a lot of these cases. It's just awful. Like, how could you possibly let a 10-year-old baby go across an international border?
What happens to these children that are subject to this, whether it's trafficking or the slavery or the sexual assault or the prostitution? What happens when they become adults? Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show. Got John Devaney coming on the show today. He is one of the producers, a huge backer of a film coming out called City of Dreams. If you followed me on Instagram, on X, TikTok, you've seen me talk about this film, City of Dreams. It's it's something that's going on right under our nose. Every film that you've seen that's talked about human trafficking or slavery or those topics, they've been about something that's happening in the past. City of Dreams actually talks about something that's happening right now, and it's happening in our country right under our nose. I mean, we have more enslaved people in our world today than ever before in history. But the fact that it's happening here in America, a country that's supposed to celebrate freedom and liberty, we've got a problem here. And so I'm thankful for guys like John and Vivek Ramaswamy and Tony Robbins and a whole host of other people who have gotten financially behind this film. A lot of outspoken people, a lot of very big names have come out and support of this, but something wild is happening. And as you would expect, whenever a film like this comes out, there are going to be the voices that try to silence it. There's going to be the detractors that try to discredit it. And of course, this is no unique situation. They're trying to do that. In fact, in my conversations privately with John, I found out just now that where they were going to release it in, I think, about 750 theaters, they've now reduced it to just over 200 rooms in the theaters across the country. I mean, you think about how many theaters are in this country, just 200 rooms, really? That's dismal. And I understand the business side of the thing, but it's interesting that as soon as Donald Trump Jr. shared the promotion for City of Dreams, that this decision was made on the part of these major theaters. Well, if you saw what happened with Sound of Freedom, we have the power to change all of that. There's this thing called virality. If you use your platform and use your voice and you share certain things enough, there is the ability to make something go viral. And then the big corporations and the cinemas and the AMCs of the world and all of these big groups, they can't ignore the voice of the people anymore. Now we see with this Reagan film that came out with Dennis Quaid, Rotten Tomatoes has given it a 17%. Whereas the crowd is giving it a 98% approval rating. So you can't trust Hollywood. And the beauty of it is this film, City of Dreams, it's not Hollywood. This is an independent filmmaker. These are independent financiers that have come behind this for its distribution, for its production. And people like you and me who have a small voice, but a voice nonetheless, to be able to go out and say, this is something that is important, that can, transform lives. It can open up people's eyes to what's going on in our country. So I want you to see this film, but I want you to be able to see this film. We're going to talk about not only the film, we're going to talk about the background. We're going to talk with John a little bit about the financial future of America. He's quite the financier. If you don't know who John Devaney is, he's quite the celebrity in the financial world. He's all over the place and has done quite a bit to keep free market capitalism quite alive in our country. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. In the meantime, I want you to find me, watchchad.com for all the fun stuff is. Head over to prathertees.com and do not forget to support all of our sponsors in this show. When we take our commercial breaks, I want to make sure that you're paying attention to these folks. They are the tried and true supporters. They're our partners. Consistently, you will see the same people on this show because we have a relationship with them and we value that relationship. So please support those folks that support us so heartily and make sure that this show remains free to you and we can continue to put this on podcast platforms, but also make it right. Shy over here sitting at the production table, he likes to eat. He likes to eat. He likes to do things fun, like breathe and live and be able to afford food and a shelter over his head. So please take care of our sponsors. And if you have an opportunity, leave them good reviews as well. So I want to dive into this conversation, take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be sitting down with my friend, John Devaney. Hang tight. Don't go anywhere. Hey, let me ask you a question. When's the last time you felt safe on the internet? Yeah, you go online and you feel so secure. No, you don't. You absolutely don't. The internet, I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day. It is an absolute Wild West show of hackers and snoopers and big corporations spying on your every move, and they've about lost everything because of hackers. But here's the good news. Surfshark has your back. With Surfshark VPN, you're not just another number in a database. You are untouchable. Whether you're at home or you're on the road, Surfshark is going to let you surf the web just like the free spirit you are, without the fear of your privacy being violated. And the best part, it's idiot-proof. People like me, you just do one click and you're wrapped in top-notch security. Add in a 30-day money-back guarantee and you have got nothing to lose. So why wait? Head over to surfshark.com. Use my code PRATHER, PRATHER, at checkout to get that extra 4 months for free and get ready to ride the internet wave with peace of mind. Listen, you don't have to get caught with your pants down. That's not fun. Secure your privacy with Surfshark. Enter coupon code PRATHER for 4 months extra at surfshark.com/PRATHER. Let's get back to the show. Hey guys, as promised, I want to welcome to the show somebody who's making a difference. We talk about parallel economies all the time, and sometimes it requires people with a lot of clout, people with a lot of power and influence to step in and make certain things happen. We talk about this idea that Hollywood has, it's not an idea, it's a fact, but we know that Hollywood has chipped away at society and our culture, and it's hard to find the productions out there that actually support your values and the things that you've built your life on foundationally, and movies that have a purpose and make a point. And we know that Hollywood's not going to do that. And so a lot of times, even when you find the people who have a story or a script or the ability to put something out creatively, there's just no money behind it. So thank God, occasionally we run across these people who are willing to fund these things because they believe in them themselves. So I want to welcome to the show the CEO of United Capital Markets and the producer of a new film that you've heard me talk about a lot in recent weeks. It's a film called City of Dreams. His name is John Devaney. John, welcome to the show. How are you, man?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you very much, Chad. I'm really happy to be here with you today. I love your show.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I'm enamored with this film. I really am. It is raw. It is hard hitting. It is powerful. It's I guess you could say it's an action thriller film. It garnered a rating that caused some eyebrows to go up because I think it is very real. But it points out something that's happening in our country, right here in the U.S. It's not across the border. It's not around the world. It's something that's happening present time, not in the past. It's happening right now. Tell me a little bit about this film, City of Dreams, before we dig in any deeper. Tell me about the movie.
Yeah, sure. I think back in March, I had screened the movie. A really loving, wonderful man named Sean Wolfington lives in Miami. He's been involved in several films. Going back almost 20 years ago, he made a film called Bella about a young girl who chose to keep her child. A wonderful, wonderful story. That was his first film. He went on after that to be involved in about 7 or 8 more films that really had meaning and purpose. And as you said before, like there aren't a lot of people interested in making these types of films. And so because of that, I've really had respect for him for many years. He was one of the producers behind Sound of Freedom. And as we know, Sound of Freedom, it was a very, very important film highlighting pedophilia and child trafficking. And so when he had asked me to screen this film, I agreed, and I saw this film after work one day, and it really touched me. I was so moved when I saw the film, and I spoke to the writer and director Mohit till 2 a.m. I mean, I had tears dripping off of my chin at the end of this story, and I felt so emotional. He spent 4 years of his own harrowing journey. And I made a toast the other day to a lot of the people, loving, wonderful people that are involved in this, comparing Mohit to the hero in this story, Jesus, and they have a lot in common. And I heard a lot about Mohit's story and what he did to finish the film and bring the film um, to the screen. And he told me about many of the children that have recently been trafficked into the United States. This is based on a true story, that are being held. And I'm going to get into some of the flawed border policies in a minute, but they're being held right now in captivity by a number of bad people. Okay. There are homes that have a dozen kids, they're not in school, and they've been turned into little slaves. And this is actually going on right now in our country. And I was so touched by this that I couldn't sleep. I was reliving the film in my head. I got to my office at United Capital the next morning, and by 9 o'clock, I called Sean and I called Mohit. I said, you know, absolutely, you can count on my support. So, more than doubled the film. I am like, I have so many blessings in my life. I can't even tell you. Like, I've been so blessed. I've been blessed by a incredibly wonderful family. All my kids are graduating college. We have a very, very strong bond in my family. We've got a great network in my community of friends and family. We feel so connected to our community. It's like everything has gone so well in my life to date, and I'm so blessed with resources that, like, I didn't flinch. I said, you know what, I'm going to give you the money that you need, and I'm proud of it, and I'm proud that I could provide this. And we boosted the screens, to close to 1,000 from about 50. This was going to be a small independent film that was going to release and see how it did. But after learning about the plight of many of these children, and how more recently the problem with children being sex trafficked and labor trafficked, and I'm going to get into more detail in a minute, it's just exploded. I mean, there's like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of kids that are being exploited across our country. It's a very, very serious problem in the country right now. And so I said, I'm going to help with this thing. And then I started a film company called Manor House Films. And I was so inspired by helping out on this film that I have another film I'll get into in a minute. And my kids and I and wife, I mean, we feel great to put our resources behind trying to make films that matter, to back films that have purpose and meaning. There's so much BS right now that, and we get on our phones, and there's so many of these distracting things out in the world today, and all these temptations that people have. But like, what about using the film industry and media to push positive principles? So anyway, that's part of my intent. And I've kind of I have a great bond trading business. Just sort of as an aside to tell you what I do, for about 26 years, I buy mortgage-backed securities that are backed by residential mortgage loans, kind of like all that stuff you heard about in the financial crisis. I buy asset-backed securities and commercial mortgage-backed securities. And we're a dealer. We own over 100 to 200 million of these bonds in my inventory in my company. So right now we own about 60 different bonds. We own them with my money. Our competitors right now are like Morgan Stanley, Citibank. There's just 3 or 4 of us that buy this stuff as what's called a market maker. I trade the pieces in these deals that are the riskier pieces. There's like a B, C, D, E, F, G when they make these structured finance deals. So we specialize in trading all the pieces that aren't the A's, like the C and the D and the E and the F's. And we give liquidity when people need to sell. And I've been doing that for about 26 years at United Capital. So
it's money, John. It's money, and you're a smart man, and I'm a fan of that because, like I said to you before we started taping, you keep capitalism alive, and I love it. I love it, man. But you know what? It's funny to me because it's funny in an ironic way. because it's amazing when you get blessed in the way that you become successful and you're able to do things that you love. You not only boost the economy, but you're able to boost people's spirits with films like this. You can get behind them and you can fund them, and you can be a person that expands that voice and builds a bigger platform, because we've been told all these years that people like you and me that maybe fall on the conservative side of the political leanings, we want kids in cages. I mean, we want these kids come across, we want to separate them from their families. Right now you have this story, City of Dreams, about a kid who's coming across the border. He's trafficked across the border. He has dreams of coming to America, being a soccer star, and winds up in a fashion sweatshop. People have no idea in places like LA that across the country, the average person in Missouri or Ohio, they don't realize what's going on in these sweatshops, in these fashion centers, in these places where kids are being used, for labor, and it's literally modern day slavery for children. And the irony of people like us being accused of what we want to do with these people that are coming across the border versus the reality. I mean, you put a lot of your own capital behind this in order to expand this. I know that you've got various people involved in this, but some names that people would recognize would be, of course, Tony Robbins, Vivek Ramaswamy, and a host of others who have thrown their energy behind it as well. Hey, I just got off the phone with my buddy Trey over at United Patriot Coin. They got something new going on that I think is pretty cool. A lot of you have seen that one of their gold and silver Patriot packs. I've promoted them for a long time on my social media. Their packs come with those 8 individual coins in the bars at a low price point, so they're a great way to start your precious metal stack. It's a great way to get into this. It's a fun hobby, but it's also a valuable hobby, and it'll also add some barter power to your bug out bags. So like everything else these days, man, the Patriot packs, they're evolving. And now the 1-ounce silver rounds included in the packs can actually be snapped apart into the 4 separate sections. I've shown you that before. It's really cool how that happens and how that works. It's like having a $20 bill that you can tear apart and pay for things in increments of $5, except it's made of pure investment quality silver. Now, with the crazy election season that's going on, multiple fronts of wars, and inflation that just doesn't seem like it's going to go away anytime soon, the demand for gold and silver is obviously on the rise. That's why the Patriot Pack has become popular as a way for people to stockpile gold and silver so their buying power is protected no matter what comes our way. And man, stuff is coming our way. Each pack includes 8 pieces of small denomination silver and gold, so you'll always be prepared. And with that snap-apart silver, it's even better, man. It's really cool. So if you use promo code CHAD10, pay attention to what I said, CHAD10 at checkout, you're going to get 10% off your first Patriot Pack. It's peace of mind that's worth the effort. Visit the website, UnitedPatriotCoin.com, or you can order by phone. You call them 844-202-7834. Be one of the first people to get the new Patriot Pack with the snap-apart silver ounces. UnitedPatriotCoin.com. Use promo code CHAD10. And it's amazing to me. I don't think that people understand. So when I've posted about this, John, in the last couple of weeks, a lot of people have said, I can't go to the movies. I can't support Hollywood anymore. But this isn't Hollywood. This is actually, that films like this actually expose the hypocrisy of Hollywood. They actually work to open people's eyes to what's truly going on, not only in the trafficking and the enslavement, but even in the film industry, of how difficult it is to get a story like this told. Here locally, they'll put it in some of the smallest theaters available. People don't understand how all that works. Talk to me a little bit about what the plan is of because I know Sound of Freedom caught a lot of flack. The conspiracy people came out. When you saw that these were the same folks who had put out Sound of Freedom, at any time did you have hesitation or fear that it was going to catch the same flack?
Yeah, I did. And, I'm pretty tough, and I stand up for what I think is right. And, people have taken shots at me and said, if you Google me right now, one of the top things is, I was one of the top 20 people that caused the financial crisis. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, I had I've got a book of these bonds, but I certainly didn't cause it. I was actually quite complimented to be included on that list. We had 3 presidents, some of them were great presidents, actually. We had the Federal Reserve chairman on that list that I respected. Then we had business leaders, the CEO of Bank of America and Merrill Lynch, and then some of the businesses that failed. But you know, I wasn't really worried about that because at the end of the day, when I had learned that there's so many children right now that are in the United States that don't have any voice, okay? And when I realized that all these other folks besides me, you named many of these folks. I mean, we have stood in a circle holding hands, okay? We have wept together, okay? That we have prayed together and we have pledged together that we think that we can raise awareness. We've recently been invited to screen this movie now to the US Senate. That's an honor, okay? I've made a lot of money in my career, but I'm honored. I'm going to write a speech and deliver something. Maybe somebody like me, okay, can motivate these politicians to come together, okay? They should come together. This is the one thing protecting children that everybody should be agreeing on right now. And really what's happened is that there are some very poor countries in Central America and South America, and that when they discovered how easy it was for unaccompanied minors to make it across the border, okay, a lot of bad guys there, okay, they traffic drugs. They said, hey, we could start trafficking children, and they prayed. And this is what I've investigated this myself, and I believe that part of this problem is exactly what I'm going to tell you right now.
You guys know that I love Patriot Mobile. They are good friends and great patriots. And they realize that Americans are tired. They're tired and frustrated by the stalling economy, the inflation, the endless wars, the relentless assault on our values. And thankfully, folks over at Patriot Mobile, they got your back. They still believe in America. They believe in our Constitution. And I'm so proud over the years to have partnered with them and continue to do it because Patriot Mobile, they're on the front lines, man. They're putting their money where their mouth is, and they're fighting for the First and Second Amendments, the sanctity of life, our military and first responder heroes. I want you to take a stand with them on conservative causes and put America first by switching over to Patriot Mobile today. You're going to get the same nationwide coverage as the big providers because Patriot Mobile, they operate on all three major networks, plus they back their service with a full coverage guarantee. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team will take care of you. They will find the best plan for your needs. You can keep your number, keep your phone, or you can upgrade, and they'll help. Go to patriotmobile.com/Chad or call them 972-PATRIOT. You do it right now, you get a free month when you use the offer code CHAD. I spell it Chad. Use that offer code and don't get fooled by the other providers pretending to share your values or have the same coverage. They don't, and they can't. So join me. Switch to America's only Christian conservative mobile provider. That's Patriot Mobile. Go to patriotmobile.com/Chad. Call them 972-PATRIOT. Get your free month of service today. Use that promo code Chad. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
That I believe that many of these parents in Guatemala, I mean, it's unthinkable for us. Okay, we live a different life here, but some of these people in Guatemala are so poor. They thought that maybe their children might have a better life in the United States. And they gave them to these coyote traffickers. They were jamming 12 kids, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. These are babies, okay, in Suburbans. Okay, Suburbans would take them all the way to the border. They knew that the border welcomed all migrants, including unaccompanied children. They knew it. They knew the system. They gamed it. They took these kids to the border. They gave these children a certain name of a sponsor. Okay, and what happened is that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the rules were different, and that the only way an unaccompanied kid could make it across the border is they had to go to a blood relative like an uncle or an aunt or a parent, okay? And then these dumb decisions, they're obviously dumb, okay? They made it so you could fill out a form and choose a sponsor, okay? The bad guys that were making $3,000 to $5,000, okay, per kid, charging these very poor families, they're the ones that gave these kids the sponsor name. Okay. And these are people in Florida and Texas and Minnesota. I mean, everywhere, Denver. Okay. They're like, hey, put this name down. These guys agreed to take you in. Okay, these are bad guys dealing with more bad guys. Okay, and the government wasn't even really very wise to it. I'll get into whistleblower reports in a second. I highly recommend, if you want to get really smart on this issue, I think that um, everybody should read Hannah Dreier from the New York Times. She's won awards for this reporting, 20 expose articles. There's a link that I sent your producer that takes you to all of her articles. And I just can't believe that she spent that much time doing this work. Nobody else cares about it. Nobody else picks it up. She's the one banging this drum, okay? And she's the one that had uncovered that one house in Texas got 20 kids in it, and in Florida, 15 kids. Like, how could the government send 15 kids? There's no computers that tracked any of this. Like, it's just awful, awful that they could do this. The foster care system, they've been running for years and years. If you want to be a foster parent, you're going to have to text back and forth like weekly and monthly to give all kinds of checks and balances to make sure that kid is okay. Okay. There were thousands of kids in tents at the border, and her reporting at the New York Times said, push him out, get him out of here. It's bad on TV. It's making, the left look bad that there's tent cities and all this. Just get him out. And they weren't doing it fast enough. They fired people, her reporting said. We'll get other people that'll push them out to these sponsors. And these poor children got pushed out into bad guys because the bad guys gave the sponsor family bad guys, and these kids wound up going. Her reporting says that there are houses that have 20 children sleeping on the floor like sardines in 2 bedrooms, and they're being picked up by 15 passenger vans, and they're cleaning pig slaughterhouses in the evening. I mean, this is what she reported. She uncovered all this stuff. So fine, some of the companies got fined. They said, oh, it wasn't us. We hired a janitorial vendor that hired minor, undocumented, no papers, not in school children that are 12, 13 years old to do this type of work. I mean, so like a flood of children, unfortunately, came through the border. Okay. And now they've been dispersed all throughout our country, and it's terrible. We should try to find these children and help them. It's just awful. I mean, they're all God's children. So it's like, it doesn't matter where they came from, but like, go to the New York. I was just in New York. I went on CNBC, and our host on that show, a good friend of mine for 20 years, Brian, was saying that he can't believe it, that the subways now have dozens of kids, and they're 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, 12 years old, selling fruit, selling water. They don't speak English. They're migrants. It's like there's crazy, crazy stuff going on right now. That it's impacting the many of these cities. I mean, just to talk about New York, because I trade right now I'm specializing in trading commercial real estate debt. So my whole book right now references malls, office buildings, hotels, data centers, warehouses. So in these structured finance deals, they can repackage anything. And right now, after COVID hit, the commercial real estate market got distressed initially with the hotels because they closed them. A lot of them went under, and the hotels pretty much have recovered, except for they have not recovered in several Democrat-run cities. Funny enough.
It's odd how that works, right?
Okay, and that the malls got hit during COVID. Right now, the flawed border policy, again, I'll get back to the kids in a minute, but if you want to talk about policies that have a very big impact on cities across the United States, we should talk about where many of the migrants went when they were busing and flying them across our cities several years ago. I just asked ChatGPT, which, by the way, is crazy because it knows like everything. And I asked ChatGPT, hey, tell me where all the migrants went that were bused and flown with the migrant explosion across the border, and it gave me a list of the 20 cities. Okay, and I looked at the list, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I'm like, "These are the top 15 of the 20 cities are the most distressed commercial real estate in our whole country. So it's all connected. It's like all these flawed policies of letting millions and millions of migrants into our country. I mean, first of all, that is crazy. Like, we have our own issues here trying to uh, teach kids in school and handle all of our social services before we're going to welcome in 5 or 10 million migrants. Half of them are sneaking across the border. The other half we're welcoming them in. And there was this very big debate going on about whether we should have that policy or not. In the last administration, they welcomed way too many migrants in. And do you know what? That these cities on the list have very serious problems with office loans defaulting. Do you know why the office loans are default? Like, dozens of loans are defaulting. I was just on CNBC. Go listen to my interview. Okay. There's a crisis unfolding across the United States right now on office debt that's as bad or worse than during the financial crisis. Okay. A lot of Americans are like, hey, my residential home is at an all-time high. There's a housing shortage. I feel I have a job. Unemployment's low. I mean, there are some problems to complain about, but not, like, most Americans are doing okay right now. They're very upset about inflation, but there isn't any serious problems like some of the real hiccups we've had before. So many Americans, they just don't know that there is a crisis across America right now in many of the cities, and there are dozens and 100 defaults. There's so many office loans defaulting, and the cities right now that welcome the migrants, it's the same cities, those same flawed governments, okay? Those city governments with the wrong policies, they're the ones that are going down the tubes, okay? San Francisco, the tech hub of the world. America should be proud of everything we did, leading the world in all these tech companies. Okay. What happened? That state has very flawed policies, and many of those cities have very flawed policies. So not only did they welcome in tons of migrants into San Francisco, many of the policies in that city, like decriminalizing theft under $1,000, like all the national chains, like Walgreens, drugstores, shoe stores, like everybody's leaving San Francisco because the gangs of people go in there and they're carrying out trash bags of the goods, and they walk right out. They just smash and grab. There's no consequences whatsoever. It's like, who wants to live and work in a city like that? Then they decriminalized in San Francisco drug. They mainly decriminalized, but drug use, heroin, these are awful drugs. Like, they decriminalized it. Like, that's a bad move. Like, drugs are a very serious issue right now with the opioid addiction and heroin addiction. And that's not the right path. It's not working at all. Okay. So those are other policies in San Francisco that really are dooming that city right now. There's a giant problem in San Francisco with homelessness, and that's actually spreading across all of California. So it's like that. Then they accepted all these migrants into San Francisco, just compounding problems that they already had. And San Francisco has a very serious problem with the offices there. The occupancy on many of these buildings was at 90%, like 5, 6 years ago. During the Trump administration. Do you know what it's at right now? 30, 40% on a lot of buildings. These are a slow motion train wreck happening in these cities. None of these corporations will renew these leases. These are companies that have 3 or 4 floors. They're like, we're out. We are out of San Francisco. We won't renew our lease. And because of the trend at work at home, that now why would a company subject all these employees to the danger, the crime? I mean, like, there's awful crime in San Francisco. Like, the police are throwing their hands up. They're like, what do we do? Like, there'll be dozens of cars that are all being smashed every night. Like, there's very bad crime across some of these cities. Everything that I just said about San Francisco. Go and read the news on Philadelphia. What a shame. That used to be an incredible city. Okay. Philadelphia has gone completely down the tubes. I mean, look at some of the neighborhoods there. It just sickens me that people are hunched over, addicted on fentanyl. There's so many drug addicts. People are crapping on the streets and pissing everywhere. There's all these. It's just like, what happened to America? I mean, it is just breaks my heart. There are buildings that because we trade all the debt on this stuff, that had a $280 million mortgage that was appraised at $350 million 10 years ago. And they're going to be lucky, okay, if they get 60 million for it. That's losing like 85 cents from the appraisal and losing 75% on the mortgage debt. We're not in a financial crisis right now. There's nothing going on right now, but there's another big crisis that's unfolding all around us. And that's that many of these policies inside some of these Democrat cities are very, very flawed. Okay. And that as I said when I started talking about this, that many of the cities on this list of the top cities where all the migrants were bust, 15 out of the 20. Let's keep talking about it. Denver office going down the tubes right now. Defaults are everywhere. Look at everything that's happening in Colorado right now with all the Venezuelan gang members. There's absolute lawlessness that's all going on there. So it's like these politicians need to switch gears and change many of these policies. I mean, they're absolutely not working. I mean, like they're creating like problems. It's not just the social unrest and our citizens here are being impacted, but like this is gonna scuttle these cities. Like I predict that many of these same cities are gonna wind up having their municipal bonds downgraded. Like the financial credit of those cities, they all issue. I wouldn't touch the municipal bonds of any of these cities with a 10-foot pole. I mean, there's no way. Chicago, Philadelphia, Denver, Los Angeles, San Francisco, St. Louis. I mean, like, there's all these other places that made awful decisions. They've defunded the police. Like, what a moronic move that could be. Like, that is crazy. Oh, we've got cameras set up. Like, the police are like badgering and hurting our citizens. Like, it's just like these are crazy policies that have all been rolled out. They're obviously not working. And that, I mean, I didn't really intend to talk about the financial aspects of my business, but I can't help but just to talk about how the migrant problem is a big problem. Okay, it's so big that you cannot have like Obama. I was on Twitter and somebody posted something of Obama having said, you just can't let 500,000 people come in unrestricted without policies to control it. Like that makes sense. Like that's a great statement. Like now, you look back in 2021 and 22, you're talking about like 5 to 7 million. Like you're just letting everybody in. Like there's no way to offer all these people services, and it's like that it's creating a problem amidst that. Like these politicians that did that, there's a subset of like 500,000 of these kids, like 500,000. I don't know what the number is, like of unaccompanied minors. There's no parent and guardian that knows these kids in a lot of these cases. It's just awful. Like, how could you possibly let a 10-year-old baby go across an international border and go to some other adult that they don't even know? It's just cuckoo. It's absolutely crazy that any of this stuff was going on in the first place. So anyway, I mean, I had learned about in detail bits and pieces. I'm quite a bit smarter on this now because it's been this journey, and lots of people have told me exactly how bad it is with the kids, just to kind of switch back to that. But I had learned bits and pieces of this, and like, at this stage for me, like I should be helping, and that's it. And that's what I decided to do, to back the city of dreams, and to do everything I could to try to raise awareness. And that's really why I decided today to speak up, because I think that as a business leader, a successful guy, that it's kind of my duty at this point at my age to really speak up and say, I don't like the policy. I don't like what happened to these kids. I think that that change needs to happen. I think that it should be bipartisan. I think the Democrats and Republicans should all care about trying to find these kids and to make sure that nothing like this can ever happen again, and get a handle on this, because these kids are being trafficked. And another thing that Hannah at the New York Times had brought up is that the kids are at such risk in the foster system alone, okay? That kids in the foster system, that 60% of women that become prostitutes in our country, you know that 60% of women, they come out of the foster system. I didn't know that until now. I was like, wow. I was like, 60% come out of the foster system? What in the world is going to happen to these kids that aren't in the foster system that came in? It's
Right.
awful. I can't even think about these kids that came in that have no weekly and monthly checks that are required to occur with the foster system. All these kids just disappeared into our country.
Yeah.
So this movie is a battle cry. It's a call to action, okay? That I think everybody in the United States should go and see this movie. And I'm warning you that it the ending is very inspiring, because this boy Jesus had the courage to stand up against his captors and fight. Okay, but the captors abuse the kids, and it's hard to watch that. But the director Mogan really wanted to make the viewer feel what it's like, okay, to be one of these children, okay? And so it's gut wrenching, and it's difficult. But I think that the filmmaker did the right thing to make the movie like this, because anybody that's out there, and I recommend everybody goes to see this movie, City of Dreams. Okay, it's going to make you feel what it's like if you were one of those kids. And look at us; we have a great life. You know that these kids that are out there have no voice, and there's so many kids that got exploited. And in the last like 6 years, the issue exploded. It exploded, and like I just can't even believe when I read the New York Times article expose from Hannah Dreier that this is such a big issue and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to make sure that we put Hannah Dreier's link to those articles that you sent us. I appreciate you doing that, John. We're going to put it in the description of today's episode. And I'll tell you, you said, you talk about the cities and you talk about the financial decisions that are made. I mean, what you and I are talking about in general, it's common sense. I mean, it should be common sense. Unfortunately, everything that you just spelled out, a person on the left, a progressive leftist, would call you just a xenophobic racist for pointing those things out, which is, it was asinine and stupid that anybody would do that when they literally are feeding destruction unto themselves with these types of policies. I've been to Nicaragua, I've been to Guatemala, I've been to El Salvador, I've been to Honduras. I've worked in the 90s, particularly to establish orphanages in Cambodia and in Thailand to get these young 7, 8, 9-year-old girls off the street that were going to go into prostitution. We've worked to do this. I mean, you go to these countries and you see this and you say, listen, these people in many places live in squalor. They're living in poverty. They're desperate, and they're coming here with, it's a last hope in sending their children here. I can't imagine the trauma that goes on. But what you said is so profound, because what happens to these children that are subject to this, whether it's trafficking or the slavery or the sexual assault or the prostitution? What happens when they become adults? They repeat that cycle, and it magnifies. It's going to multiply. It's going to get exponentially worse. And so we're going to see these cities. Nobody wants to go into the cities anymore. Nobody wants to go to these places because they're overrun. They have become slums. They have become shitholes. They are corrupt with overwhelmingly bad policy. I just saw a news article the other day. I posted it on my Instagram and on my X account that says that a police officer had to release someone who was convicted of double homicide, who was here illegally, because that was a sanctuary city. I mean, the stupidity of that is, you have to sit around and really think to be that dumb. I mean, you really do have to be creative to be that ignorant.
Yeah, no, it's it's funny how the media with the exception of Hannah, that they have suppressed and censored, okay, and gone out of their way to sweep a lot of this problem under the rug. And it's
Yeah.
really not fair to these kids. And and I'm really hoping that that more awareness can will be brought to the issue right now just through this film, and some of the first steps is talking about the issue, and and for sure in much of the same way that the issues with Sound of Freedom had. We're experiencing right now, and this is a very, very serious matter, and we're emailing Meta right now, the rest of the producing team. But we've discovered that a lot of the influencers, we have over 100 influencers now, or 120 celebrities, business leaders, influencers. I mean, you name some of the bigger ones, but we've got some other folks that felt in their heart that sticking up for these kids was the right thing to do. And some of these are young influencers that I met at some of the red carpet screening that have 5 million followers. Like I recently had a big group of about 15 of these influencers that all do really great things, in the new digital age. And I was so proud of them for all grouping together and deciding to support something that's important. And that's what I told them. I said, hey, in this new digital age where I know you're going after views and you guys are getting paid by Instagram and by YouTube, and some of these guys are making money. They make like 50 grand a month, or these guys are blessed. Okay, and I advised to this new group. I'm in my mid to low 50s, and I was a hot shot at one point, young guy in my late 20s, crushing it in my early 30s. And so, but I've told many of these young people, I was like, you know what? One of the best things I did when I was younger and I started making money, I felt so blessed. When I was 29, I started United Capital Markets. Okay. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that my own God given skills to build models, and I've got the ability to see what happens in the future in many cases. And I'm great with sales and people. And so being a market maker just took off for me because I figured out how all these really distressed, I specialize in bonds that kind of go wrong, that are real smelly and stinky. And I don't really care. I'm like, well, I'll buy it at 30 cents on the dollar or 40. If I think I can get back 80 cents, I don't care. And so I became the market maker in a lot of this distress stuff. And I was so blessed in the beginning of my career when I was 29. And this is before people made money in the internet age and these internet stocks. I made like $5 million my first year. I felt so blessed. And one of the first real generous things I did, these ladies that were friends with a client of mine of Orlando drove all the way down with the cassette tape that went into one of those TVs. It had a little thing, that's how long ago it was. They put the cassette tape in. They said that you got to, our benefactor that was funding for 10 years this property that had a dozen horses, and they used the horses with children, terminally ill children, children that had autism, mental issues, from the foster program. And they had a wonderful program, and the benefactor had passed away, and it really impacted their program. And then it got to the point where the horses couldn't even eat. And these two very nice ladies came down and showed me the video of their program and said, the horses are starving. And I just started my business, and they said, if you could just give us $5,000, we could make it for another month or so, and we don't even know where to turn. And we heard about you, and you're a nice man, and everything. I was like, $5,000? That's not going to do anything. I'm like, that's not going to do anything. Like, I'll give you like 50,000. And so I wrote these guys a check, and I went back to my trading terminal. And, my bond business, like, we buy stuff, we mark it up, we try to sell it. Like, I made like $250,000, selling a bond at the end of the day. And I was like, well, shoot, look at that. Like, you give something back and the world will give you everything. Like if you feel in your heart and you can be generous, that you can be showered with so many blessings. All you need to do, okay, is to take some of your resources. It could be your money, it could be your heart, it could be your creativity, it could be your energy, and try to think about doing kind things for others. And then the next year I made 25 million bucks when I was 30, like net, like on my revenues, and like my bond trading business really had taken off, and I was competing against Goldman and Morgan Stanley and Deutsche Bank and CSFB, and Lehman was in business then, and Bear Stearns. They unfortunately went under, but the third year I made like 45 million. I was like 31 years old, and and from then I was very idealistic, and I don't blame some of these Democrats for wanting to make a better world. I respect that, believe me, okay, but when it's naive, okay, and the trying to be idealistic is this grand vision they have that it just you can't implement it. Like it's impossible, or they're not really thinking about the economic and other social consequences. So, like, anyway, the I've I throughout my career, we started the community reinvestment leg of my business. Okay, and up until the financial crisis in 2007, we had supported about 100 different philanthropies through my company, and made it part of our culture to try to give back. And I mean, I got really tagged. Like I think in '03, I made over 100 million myself, more than Raymond James and Jeffries. I mean, it was just a wild ride that I was on, and I really credit that. I do. I've told a lot of these young people. I was like, listen, 10 or 15% of my energy was thinking about others. It was thinking about being close to family values, having my family. I made money. The first thing I did is I bought a house for my wife's mom. Made sure she was almost next door. Like it was 2 houses away. Then I bought a house for my mom, 3 houses away. Bought a house for my wife's father. Moved him in from Gainesville. Got a house for her sister, and said, you know what, took care of my uncle, and brought everybody onto Key Biscayne where we are, so we could have all of our Easters together and Christmas dinner, and so, like, believe me, like if you want to do well in business, okay, that you should give back, have a good heart, be generous, embrace your family, because your family, it doesn't matter. All the family are different shapes and sizes and people, doesn't matter. You can love them all. You get in the whole family, there's people that are loud and different opinions. It doesn't matter. They're your kin, and that you should keep them close to you. And so for me, when this came up with City of Dreams, it just it was normal for me to say. Anyway, and I got tagged, just to continue that real quick. I mean, I lost close to $200 million in the financial crisis. Okay, the financial crisis hit me and my business, and all the financial institutions. Everybody got hurt, and we built my business back up through a lot of hard work, and dealing with all of our customers fairly. We were great business, and connected very well with lots of the customers in the bond market, and so when I saw the opportunity to try to help here, I honestly I jumped on it, and I really feel great about it.
Well, I'm glad you did. I really am. And thank you for doing it. It's a fantastic film. It's a fantastic piece of work. It's a great message. When they reached out to me, I have people all the time and say, why are you pushing this? Why are you promoting this? Because I believe in it. And I believe in what it's all about. I believe in the message. And I think it's a powerful way to be able to change people's minds and open their eyes and really transform. Last question before I let you go. I know you're a busy man, and I'm so appreciative of your time. As we head into November, I mean, it's a fiasco. It's crazy. What does the future of America's financial situation look like in your estimation as we head into a potential, as at least how we think of it now, a Harris presidency versus a Trump presidency? What's your outlook? What's your prediction as we head forward of what this could look like for financial either success or ruin, whichever direction we choose to go? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of the same principles that have greatly hurt some of the Democrat-controlled cities,
Mhm.
fiscal irresponsibility, bad social policies that are hurting the those cities, that hurts the GDP. Look at Chicago and look at a lot of the businesses that that are leaving. Citadel left and went to Miami. I mean, like, there's migration that's happening across the United States right now. Many there the population migration certainly is not moving into any of the Democratic states. It's
Oh.
leaving all of the Democrat states. So people that are Americans, both Democrats and Republicans, are leaving and migrating to Republican states that have better policy. It's not just the tax issue. So, but to answer your question, the you know the I mean, I'm going to vote for Trump. There's absolutely no question about it. I think that he's a fantastic leader for our country. Okay, that he's made a ruckus over certain issues, and even within the Republican Party, so some people uh, think that he's loud and controversial or whatever these things are. However, it's like this guy is a very experienced businessman, okay, and he's made things happen, and over much of his career, and he he isn't bent by the politics that people in the Republican Party and the Democrat Party many times cater to. It's very hard to lobby him. He talks about things in a very common sense way that's connected to so many Americans across the country. And so he is a president for the people. And
Mhm.
that's really why so many people respect him right now. He has had such a difficult time with the media. And it's really a shame how many, how he really gets a awful rap. President Trump several years ago predicted and talked about how children were going to be impacted. Okay, this is years ago. President Trump talked about the plight of children years ago in the flawed border policy. So it's like that the courts and what Democrats have done recently. I know I'm not exactly answering your question, but to talk about something else, like, any businessman and entrepreneur, or any citizen for that matter, should be very, very worried about how Democrats have weaponized the legal system. For example, in New York, the fact that they have charged President Trump with fraud for communicating his own personal financial statements to Deutsche Bank. Okay, I have quarterly disclosures, like I have covenants with some credit lines and stuff that I have with my banks. And my bank, one of my bankers recently, I have a couple hundred million portfolio of commercial and residential real estate. My banker recently asked me, would you mind giving me your opinion on the fair market value of your real estate? I said, absolutely. I'll give you my opinion of what I think it's worth. Some of my real estate is up two times, three times. I've owned real estate for over 20 years. Okay. So, like, that is between me as the borrower and the bank is the lender. Okay. That is no business of anybody in government. I don't care if it's the federal government. I don't care if it's a state or a city. It doesn't matter. It's like, we live in a free country, and we should be free to communicate back and forth in commerce. Okay. And if the lender doesn't do their own due diligence and gives me credit based on estimates that were inflated, it doesn't even matter. Like, that's between me and them. Okay,
Mhm.
it's a free market society, and that's what laissez-faire means. Is that the government has absolutely no place in certain things. And the fact that a court could be alleging that he had fraud for estimating that Mar-a-Lago was worth a lot of money, which it is. It's a spectacular property. It's
Sure.
like it's totally besides the point. Like that is not something like that every businessman out there should be so scared that 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 Democrat controlled courts are going to go and ask for your emails. It's like communism and be like, hey, I want to see that email. John Devaney, I think that you might have overestimated. I live in the house that was the President Nixon compound on Key Biscayne. I've got a 1 acre helicopter pad that goes out over the bay. It's a very valuable property in Miami. And it's like the thing's worth a lot of money. Okay. And then they asked me what I thought it was worth, and I gave them. I actually set a range. I think it could be worth it's like a one of a kind place. Okay, but like, do you know how fearful it would be if all of a sudden that like the state of Florida and a state Supreme Court and like somebody came after me and said, "Hey, I got your emails and you told XYZ Bank that you thought this property is worth $100 million or whatever," and it's like, you know what? We're suing you. We're going to like kick you out of the state. Like, this is just nonsense. Like, it's just absolutely crazy. So, anyway, I mean, there's certainly a few things that disturb me about politics right now. I mean, I honestly, the last few years, like, I am not like, my wife's probably going to be absolutely mortified that I've spoken my mind on a couple of these items that bother me. Like, haven't opened my mouth and talked about anything political in like a long time. Like I'm kind of a private person. I choose more so to do good things and be a good person in things that are all in front of me. And I don't like, I'm very respectful of everyone's political opinions. I'm the last guy actually that like, I'm kind of surprised that I'm bringing a couple of these things up that bother me. But anyway, I'm just talking honestly. I mean, you're asking me about. So anyway, so I think that the Republican Party will greatly grow GDP over many years. It's like we've got to get control of trade. So I think President Trump understands trade better than anybody. He's really tough on that. We should be protecting jobs here in the United States for sure. We got to protect them. It's like all this stuff, like importing, letting all of our automakers, make cars in all these countries that have very low labor. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, if we did do that, it's fine. Then we should have huge tariffs to let those countries have goods come in. Everybody's taking from the United States, and they're not giving anything back. And so all these things that Trump is saying are 100% correct. It's like we're protecting the whole world from all these bad guys, and a lot of these other countries aren't paying their share. It's like, it doesn't take like a lot of common sense to agree with a lot of these things he's saying. So, but going back to the kids, and some of these issues, that I hope that a lot of people that might be listening to this right now, I hope that they realize that I am making an effort, okay, through this new business that I started to try to support things that make a difference. I'm trying to support films that matter. And I think that there's a niche for this. And I've said this to several people. There are some very big executives that have come to the Manor House, which is this property I bought. It's 100 years old. It's in Cat Cay, Bahamas. It's a wonderful place that we've had family and friends and philanthropy events and business leaders there. And it's like a hotbed of love and creativity. And that's why I named my film company the Manor House. And I really think that there's an audience, and a lot of America should care about supporting things that matter. I've got this one film here, okay, that's City of Dreams, and my other film is going to come at the end of the year, and it's called The Prince. And The Prince has a really incredible all-star cast. The budget's quite a bit bigger. We've got Nicolas Cage in that film. Andy Garcia, my friend from Key Biscayne, told me, John, movie business is very risky. You're going to need all the help you can get, and I'd love to be in your film. And he really believed in our script, which I'll tell you about in a second. Giancarlo Esposito is in The Prince, incredible actor. J.K. Simmons, Simon Rex. The Prince is a story about a troubled man with problems with addiction. And so he has these serious issues with drugs and alcohol and exploiting women. And he's a man that grew up in a privileged family. And but unfortunately, a lot of those issues really impacted him. And it chronicles how our hero in that story meets a Christ figure named Charles, played by Giancarlo Esposito. And Charles speaks some very profound words to our hero, offering up better life choices for him, and speaking some very profound words. Charles appears to the hero against a kind of a chaotic backdrop. It's exciting. I think audiences are really going to love it, following the hero through these two worlds that he lives in: wealth, power, and politics on one hand, and then a very seedy underworld filled with drug dealers and prostitutes. And Nicolas Cage plays our pimp in the movie. And however, towards the end of the film, the audience kind of feels for the hero, to be honest with you. It's really, this movie, The Prince, is not what many people, if you read about it online, it's not what people might really expect. Okay. It's a very, very rich story. Okay. That connects the audience a bit with the hero and shows what it's like to have some of these very serious problems with addiction, which, as I had mentioned earlier, is such a big issue across America right now.
Yeah.
Just to share with you, I mean, I am sober. I absolutely cannot drink any alcohol, and I gave it up a number of years ago. And it's just not for some people. My brother had passed when I was 25 and he was 26. His name was Neil, and he died of crack cocaine addiction. And so when I read this story about this hero that had these same issues with drugs, I felt a lot of empathy, and I decided to make this movie. My brother died homeless in crack dens in Miami, and I would go into very dangerous neighborhoods, and I saved him, and I'd bring him back home. And I grew up. My dad was an attorney. It was a privileged life. I mean, my dad did quit his job and was an alcoholic when I was in high school. I did support myself in college, but many families have that issue of alcoholism, and so my brother had these problems, and we would capture him and bring him back home, and certain drugs like crack cocaine, heroin, the opioid problems, they will devastate and wreck people, families, and we couldn't understand it. He would run away, and he would run back into the ghettos of Miami and the crack dens, and that's where he died, and he passed. So I'll tell you this, that anybody, I don't care who you are, okay, deserves to get healed from these issues. It's a disease, okay? And social policy, when it comes to the epidemic of drug use, for sure it needs to change. So this, again, it shouldn't be, this is like a bipartisan issue. The left and the right should care about these issues. And so I'm bringing that film because I believe everyone should heal from these issues. And in the event that you made bad choices when you're using, I honestly believe that you should be forgiven. I don't care who you are or so this film company, Manor House Films, is different. We're trying to do things differently. I would like to support things that have purpose and meaning. And I really hope that it's going to connect with audiences across America. So
I love it. Well, John, thank you for your time. The movie City of Dreams, you can go see it. And The Prince, we've got something to look forward to with that. So thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for being so outspoken and being so generous and gracious with time and resources to get these things done. There's some powerful stories out there, and I'm thankful that they're being told. So, John, thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I pray that this is incredibly successful, and the voice of the detractors will be silenced, because I know they're out there, and they come out full force. It's amazing to watch how people don't want these tales and these stories, these real life poignant films to be out there and successful. So thank you for doing what you do, John.
No, thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah, hang tight real quick, John. I want to before we let me jump off here real quick. I want to say one more thing to you. For those of you that you can find it, a theater near you, City of Dreams, go find it and support it. Post about it after you see it. Leave a little review. Get on X, get on Instagram. Talk about how it impacted you. Be honest about it, and I think that it'll go a long way. Use your platform for what you can as well, folks. WatchChad.com. You can find me all across the country. It's where all the fun stuff is. We're doing a lot of things. We're filled up through the rest of the year, a packed schedule, and I'd love to see you out on the road. So come find me, WatchChad.com, and don't forget, leave us a 5-star rating. It's what we deserve wherever podcasts are offered, and leave us a review. Hit that like button, and we appreciate you. Love you. God bless you. We'll talk to you next time.